Welcome to Hey, Great Shot. This is the Great Shot Podcast, a Cracked Racquets and Tennis Channel Podcast Network production. My name is Alex Gruskin. On tonight's show, we've got our final edition of the deciding point of the 2023 season, our weekly breakdown of everything that happens across the Division I college tennis world. Now, obviously, we're not going to get any more results from the 2023 college tennis season, but we do have one last task here at Cracked Racquets as we put the final bow on what was a spectacular year of play. Of course, last week, if you joined us, you saw myself and John Parsons hand out our Division I Women's College Tennis Awards here on our final show of the season. We're going to hand out our Division I Men's College Tennis Awards. Now, of course, before we do that, we do have a little bit of news to get to. We're going to ask the same questions about the Division I men's season as we did about the Division I women. That, of course, is all these weeks later, reflecting upon it. Did the right team win the 2023 Division I men's team title? What are our thoughts on the individual results? And we haven't talked about it yet on this show because, to be honest, I've needed at least a month to recover. But yes, Ethan Quinn, the dramatic 5-4, 40-love down in the second set, overcomes 4 match points to capture the D1 singles title to secure a U.S. Open main draw wild card. It was stunning. Luciana Trotter won an end to James Trotter's season and college career. Got a lot of things to catch up on. We got to talk about the coaching carousel, the transfer portal news. Then, of course, we'll hand out our Division I Men's College Tennis Awards, of course, if we're going to be doing all of that, and if it's our final show of the 2023 season. You all know I'm going to have some guests joining me to help break it all down, and it's the same 2 men who have joined me on every show throughout the course of our 2023 college tennis season. Of course, since this is the Division I men's show, I'll start with the guest I always start with. You know him best as the forefather of the College Tennis Ranks Formula predictions, never far from the listed UTR, one of the many dames to root for the Liberty Flames, the professor, the lean, mean vegan machine. It's our dear friend, commentator on his gravestone, Chris Halioris. Chris, hey, great shot. Welcome back to the show, our final of the year. How are you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling pretty good. It's kind of, it's that sort of high and low. It's like, wow, yeah, it's college tennis, but it's the last show of the year and kind of the last thing we do for, many, many months. And it gets to all background work for a while here. So yeah, it's a little sad, but kind of nice to get a break at the same time.
Yeah, and I'm not opening Pandora's box, I promise, Jay, who I'm going to introduce here in a moment. But we do have one more thing to do, and we'll either do it later this week or early next week. I'll ask you both your schedules after this show. But, of course, today we had our Division I Women's Kickoff Weekend Draft. We have our Division I Men's Kickoff Draft tomorrow. So that will be our formal, I suppose, final task of the season. But that'll just be a podcast, not a deciding point. That said, you're right. Highs, lows. It's been one heck of a year, and a man who's joined us through it all is the final guest we have to introduce here tonight. Of course, you all know him best as the returning champion of returning champions here on our Cracked Racquets show, founder of the No Ad, No Blog and podcast. Of course, you can catch his interview with countless of the biggest stars from the 2023 NCAA tournament, and you really should, as it's been rocking and rolling over the course of the past month. It's our dear friend and co-host of our Division I Women's Deciding Point episodes, John Parsons. Jay, hey, great shot. Welcome back to the show. Last one, best one, they say. How are you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling good. You guys got to bring in a ringer for the last one, and I'm happy to play that role. Feel like I can be a little sniper from the side here, holding all of my men's takes for most of the season. So I'm excited for tonight. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, keep us in check here tonight. That's the key thing. And if I was truly as planned and organized as I like to think sometimes I can be. I would have brought in Stakowiak too, and then it would have really been a shindig here for our award show. Unfortunately, I can't offer that to all of you listeners and fans today. But again, what I can offer is an extensive look at everything that happened this season. We try to formalize it here because I think award shows are really cool. I love the fact that in the professional leagues, NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, you name it, they do things like name an MVP, have their all-NBA or all-NFL first teams and second teams, coaches of the years, rookies of the year. College tennis is the one place where you can apply that pretty literally, directly, and dare I say most easily in the tennis universe. That's why we do it here on this show. So, of course, again, we got a jam-packed award show, MVP, ideal lineup, which I say are all first-team college tennis here in 2023, best doubles point, freshman of the year, coach of the year, programs on the hot seat, programs to watch, the guy discussion, of course, that and so much more a part of our award show after we get to our opening storylines. Of course, the reason we were able to do this all season long is because of the support we got from all of you in the college tennis universe. And I said this on the women's show. I'll do an abridged version here today. Players, coaches, parents, fans, we love you here at Cracked Racquets. We're so appreciative of you embracing all of our nonsense, our passion, of course, for this game. And it's your passion for the sport that allows all of us to help this game grow. And we know how good the product is. Our hope here at Cracked Racquets is by shining a spotlight on it, more and more people will learn that as well. And again, we will all reap the benefits in the future. That said, we don't get any sort of growth, any sort of opportunities like we had in the NCAA tournament without all of you sticking with us these past 5 years. So on behalf of the three people you see on your screen, Dalton Thieneman, Daniel Westoff as well, a massive thank you to College Tennis Nation for your support this season. Of course, a massive thank you to our sponsors as well. And you see I'm repping the Tourna gear here on our final show. I had the opportunity to sit down with Tourna owner and vice president Kevin Nixick over on our Cracked Interviews podcast. And look, we talk a lot about Tourna products, but we talk about a lot of things I think a lot of you fans will enjoy. Maybe if you don't know what you should be doing with your grips, how frequently you should be gripping your racket, what the different types of grip actually do in terms of benefiting you, or perhaps what the shortcomings of some are. We get into all of that. We nerd out a little bit as well, talk about the tennis consumer industry more broadly. It's a really fun conversation. I know you'll all enjoy it. You're already enjoying Tourna Tough and all the products associated with Tourna, so I don't need to sell those anymore. You'll recognize that trademark blue anywhere. Check out the podcast. Be sure to support our friends at Tourna by buying Tourna products wherever you get your tennis goods. Of course, a massive shout out as well to our dear friends at LS. I am looking forward to the LS Pro Showdown, or whatever the working title is now, but that LS exhibition event, so fun in August. And seriously, LS is a brand that continues to grow. I saw it on the shirts of not just our Cracked Racket shirts, but you saw it across NCAAs. I see it in multiple spots I've gone all year long. LS is growing. It's because you're going to look good, you're going to feel good, you're going to play good, rocking that LS gear. And so thank you to Dave Emke and the entire LS team for their support all season long. You can learn more about the expansive LS catalog by clicking on the link in the description to this podcast. With that said, we're spending no more than 15 minutes on these starting topics before we get to our award show. That said, we do got to talk about some of these starting topics, and we'll go rapid fire through these first two questions. But we've all had a month to reflect. We've all had a month to look back at the results, do the weird things that we do to recap this season in our heads. I'll start with you, John J. Parsons. Did the right team win the Division I Men's Team Championship, which, for those that don't remember, UVA, back-to-back champs, 4-0 victory over Ohio State in the final. Did the right wins over Kentucky and Texas to get there as well. Did the right team win?
Yes, I think the right team won. And I'll get ahead of your argument that I anticipate, which is coming. And I will say, I'm not a huge fan of best of 5 in men's tennis. I would be comfortable going to best of 3. Tennis has become so physical. It has become so much about I hate when it becomes a war of attrition, right? And sometimes you see that in the elements that these players play in, like you saw in Orlando, where essentially you look at that Michigan TCU match that was decided by first sets. Whoever won the first set was going to win that match. So I anticipate an argument coming here tonight that the conditions played too large of a factor in determining who won this. I will say this. Every single coach, every single player who wanted to win a national championship this year knew one thing. Not a lot that they can know for certain. What they knew for certain is that they would have to play 3 straight matches in the quarters, semis, and finals in Orlando. The team that was best suited and best conditioned for those matches was Virginia, who even in that final should have been less ready for that match. It didn't matter. So I would say, yes, the right team won. Virginia come out with the title, their back-to-back title, 6 straight in 10 years. The best team won this event.
I think I'm the prosecution in this case, and Jay's the defense, but I defer to you here first, Chris, outside counsel. Yes, I've had this conversation with you both off mic. I'll have it on mic here in a second, but your perspective on this question.
Well, first of all, man, I was so happy that I was going to side with Jay until Jay broke out his actual reasoning. So first,
interesting.
The right team won. And which sounds really weird because we're all both talking. Well, hell, I'm talking to 2 Virginia homers, but we're both talking to one in particular in you. But yeah, Virginia was the best team, hands down. Do I want to hear any of the women's guy coming on talking about how best of 5 is terrible? No, shut up, Jay. That's an awful take. I want wars of attrition. This is a game of fitness. If you can't hack it, get out, you lose. Okay. But he's right in the stance. Jay is right that everybody knew ahead of time they were coming to Orlando. They may not have thought they were going to play at noon like they had to after the rain, and they were going to get some cooler weather. But it's going to be humid. It's going to be hot, even if you're playing in the dark. And I don't care. You should be ready. And I'm fine going best of 5 in college, whatever. You need to be in shape to play this game. That's all there is to it. It didn't matter. And the fact that the northernmost teams in Ohio State and Virginia made the finals over the teams that play in the heat during the year is just even more shame on them. And Virginia, look, Iñaki was just battling the day before the final. That was just an absolute grind. And still came back and, was fine. They weren't just the best fit. To me, it wasn't a war of attrition. That's not why. They were just flat out better. Ever since early post indoors, they showed, hey, we're in cruise control now. We know, we can turn it on when we need to. They absolutely did. Had it gotten super, super tight, maybe, but come on, they won the Final Four. They're the best team out there. They absolutely deserve to win.
Jay, he invoked your argument, so I'll let you respond first.
No, because this is a way for you to filibuster and not have to go on record.
Perfect. Then I can answer this question now. And the argument they're both alluding to and the comparison I've used to both you and others I've talked to about this event is in golf, they say on the right day, a good golf course just wins the day. Like, the golf course was the real winner. Just crush the players. Anyone who was in Orlando, particularly for those noon matches, the courts crushed the players. The conditions crushed the players. If you won the doubles point and 3 first sets, the match was over. You won the match in Orlando. And my contention, why this question is most relevant, is not about did the right team win. Because I do think the right team won. I agree with you both. All 8 teams there, and Ohio State calls Michigan the team up north. So for you to say the most northern team won breaks my heart here, Chris. That said,
of the ones that made the Final Four.
Yeah. Well, okay. Final Four. That's fair. I didn't hear that specification. Still.
Yeah, I just meant of those Final Four teams, the 2 northernmost beat the 2 southernmost in the semis. Yeah.
Not filibustering. Did the right team win? Yes, because they all had to brave the elements. And for the second straight season, didn't matter if it was 99 or 112-degree heat, whatever it actually was on those courts. Didn't matter if it was rain and lightning delays and under the lights the year earlier in Champaign. The toughest team won. And for the second straight season, the team that peaked at exactly the right moment won. And so did the right team win the title? Absolutely. Now, with time removed, a different question, which is not the question I asked you both, but a question I think is worth examining as we look back on this event and as I look back on the 2023 season. Did the best team win? No, the best team didn't win. Because the tennis was poo-poo. It just wasn't good. It was fine tennis. It was good enough tennis. I was still thoroughly entertained by the drama, by the product. I'm not selling that aspect short. I'm talking about the pure quality of the points we saw, the pure quality of the actual ball striking. For the first sets of every match, it was stellar. And even the match that people are going to say, you're just mad because Michigan wilted in the heat. No, that's not it. The first sets in that TCU match and the first 2.5 hours from the start of doubles all the way through singles was awesome. After that, it was horrible. And you saw that same script in a lot of matches. And so, again, did the right team win? Yes, because of the reasons you both listed. Did the best team win? I can't say the answer to that question is yes, because I just think, and we'll go back to you here, Jay. I just think the weather did not allow I thought there was two good tennis matches, and the factor between them both is they were at night. NC State versus Iowa State and North Carolina State versus UNC. Those are the only two high-quality, start-to-finish. Kentucky, Virginia belongs in there as well, but that was 2 days, so it's a little bit different. Those are the three matches where the quality from start to finish was exceptional, and that's really it.
Yeah, well, Virginia did something Michigan did not, which was lose 4 first sets and come back and win the match.
Yeah, they lost, which is why the right team won.
Yes, exactly. Well, and then the best team as well. So not only did they do that, but then they won the final 4-0. Having watched that event, you can't convince me that if you played that event in 75-degree weather, that Virginia doesn't come out on top. The level of doubles they exhibited in those final 2 matches, Rodesh didn't drop a match. You can't convince me Montez would lose another match outside of Ayeni. Like, I think there's not really an argument that there was a better team there that wilted because of the heat.
Gorsny was dead. Like, that was a corpse in the semifinal. And like Fernley, same thing. Like, no disrespect to Justin Boulay, no disrespect to Alex Bernard, who was as good as anyone in that Orlando Heat. But that's the key phrase, in that Orlando Heat. And again, Virginia's awesome. Like, this is why I feel like it's okay that I'm making this argument, because my Virginia credentials do not need to be brought up. But Chris, you'll get the final word on this. Right team, best team, where do you lie?
I'm with Jay. Right team won, best team won. And the fact that we want to bring this up, let's bring Jack Anthrop on, who grew up playing within 30 minutes of that facility, playing 6 hours a day of tournament action in the juniors, and ask him how hard it was to go 2 hours. Come on.
All right, it's fair. I thought we should have the discussion. I had fun. I'll tell you what, even if you guys both disagree with me, I'm glad I brought it up. And I just think it is worth having the discussion, because I think this is one of those, much like 2019 in Orlando, where you walk away and you're like, yeah, but if you play that tournament 8 times, I don't know if we get the same champion every time, or 10 times, or whatever it may be, just because on the right day with the right heat and the right breaks. But maybe that's also just the level this year. Anyways, right team win. Jay, Chris, and I all say yes. Did the best team win? They both say yes. I'll forever, I suppose, have a few questions. That's what makes this podcast fun. I'll tell you what, I got no questions on the individual results, and we'll do this quickly. Luchanik, Trotter, NCAA doubles champions, but of course, the drama, Ethan Quinn, 4 match points down, 3-set winner, U.S. Open wildcard recipient. Jay, I start with you. What were your thoughts on the NCAAs?
Well, I mean, Ethan Quinn just incredibly clutch in a lot of those matches. He saved a match point in his first round against Luke Fampa, only to save 4 more in his match against Andre Styler in the final there. He was playing excellent tennis. He was 22-1 down the home stretch after starting the year 3-9 in the spring. So he was playing his best tennis. And at the end of the day, that was the best tennis in college.
Yeah. Chris, same question to you.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's the guy that I think we all looked at from before the 3-9 stretch that Jay talked about. It was, he was the guy, and it came down to that. And yeah, I mean, what a clutch. The conspiracy theorist will say, you sure there wasn't talk in the changeover of I'll slip you $30K if I win the match? But But yeah, no, and I'm joking, people. That would not happen. I mean,
well, also that's less than Styler's signing bonus, so he's
yeah, exactly. That would have to be going to somebody that wasn't about to go make bank in Wall Street. But yeah, no, I mean that just an outstanding performance from Quinn that entire tournament. And look, I love the Lechonig Trotter more for me because of the Lechonig story and where we've followed him from, being the big guy banging around at practice, not playing in the lineup at all, to now he's an NCAA champion. I mean, that's such a great story.
And he's like Smarty Jones, who I don't think won the Triple Crown, but won the first two. I mean, he didn't win the All-American, but he won Fall Nats and he won the NCAA doubles title, and he did it with two different partners. And you're right. Like, I'm biased. I consider the Lucianics family at this point. You spend 6 years with the people, you're going to. But what a story. And same with Trotter, who played a bad match in the Big Ten final last year. We didn't see him in crunch time of the NCAA tournament. How does he respond for his final season? Doesn't lose a singles match in dual match play. Wins the NCAA doubles title with Andrew Lucianig. They're both incredible stories. And to see them end the aggression they played with, it was really good tennis. Like, they deserved it. And shout out to Pepperdine as well. Deserving finalists, played really bold tennis in big stretches. But I guess quickly, 30,000-foot view, not just the finals. And by the way, shout out EQ, gumption. I mean, talk about having it in that moment to play loose. I mean, literally, you wonder if Styler wins NCAAs. Now it's like, well, maybe my federation backs me, and how do I end on this? But yeah,
he still ends on that. Come on.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe, but even beyond that, like, to have Rodesh, who was the best player in Orlando in the team event, make the semifinals. Murphy Cassone, if that's outdoors, not indoors against Styler, who knows how that goes? And to have guys like Ferry and Spiz and Bernard, who was so good all tournament long, and Bassavaretti and Fenty and all these guys who were the guys all season long, all play big roles in the individual event. It was really good. That was the redeeming factor, in my opinion, of the time in Orlando, is that the individual tennis, that turned out really well, even if the quality of the team event maybe left a bit desired. Jay, you're making a face at me, so final word on this goes to you.
You have totally let the quality of the Michigan TCU match taint the entirety of your Orlando experience.
I called like all of it. I disagree. It was all of the men's matches.
It was definitely not all of the men's matches. There were some extremely high quality matches, but I agree with you that this individual tournament was really fun. There were guys that we have seen for so many years in college tennis step up in this tournament, as well as new faces. A lot of freshmen you talked about, Quinn, Bassavaretti, Bernard, making fun runs. So yeah, the individual event was really exciting.
Last pushback, because I can't help it. Jay, you'll get the final word though still. Here's why. 2 3-set matches. Both in Kentucky UVA. That's all we got. Everything else was straight set that finished. Everything else. I'm pretty sure there wasn't another singles point in the men's tournament that went 3 sets other than that UVA Kentucky match. That shouldn't have happened. Like, that's just, it's a crime. We were robbed of the drama of 5-all in the third, of just everything. That's why. It's just because it was good. But it should have been jaw on the floor, like, this is the NCAA tournament we'll all be talking about forever. It had that sort of upside, I suppose, is my thought. Last word to you. You then, Chris, then we'll move on.
I think there might have been a few more in there, right? I mean, Virginia did drop 4 first sets. They had to win one of those matches in 3.
Against Kentucky?
No, against Texas, right? They lost 4.
But did they win doubles?
Sets. Yeah, but 2 singles matches.
Oh, they did lose. They did lose 4 first sets. You're right. This checks out.
That math stuff.
Kiefer 3 sets over Harper. That was the one.
That's the one. So
3.
I mean,
and it was all the same team.
The right team, some might say,
or the best team.
Yeah, or either or, whatever you want to go with.
Look,
Semantics.
I said right. Yeah.
Tomato. But no, look, an incredible individual tournament. I mean, just a note on Lucianig. I mean, comes in as a 4-star recruit, right? And is now an NCAA champion. The work ethic that he has done, and a testament to the development that Ohio State puts into their guys, a really fun event.
Chris?
Yeah, I think this year, you talked about what happened in the team event, but in the individuals, I think even more than in many of the years I've seen it, the start to individuals is always kind of, well, even the pre-start, I'll call it the pre-start, the period where all the guys pull out because they don't want to play after the grueling team event, right? So you get sort of that. And then you get the start where for the first 2 rounds, even your top seeds may or may not look like they're putting in 100% effort and may or may not get knocked off. And by the time we get down to serious action, you've lost a bunch of your top players and it's not quite so interesting. We really had a lot of the cream rise to the top, and we got the guys that were the top players make the runs that we wanted to see them playing each other coming down the stretch. And I think that made for a great individuals tournament here. Just that, it seemed like everybody was in it and we didn't just lose a bunch right off the bat or even before the tournament started.
Mostly because I'm afraid. Let me just say, I already said on a pod, back-to-back is ridiculous. It doesn't happen in college tennis history. I asked Jay already, do we have to have the best Virginia team conversation again and include one of these back-to-back teams? And certainly one of them at least gets in the door of the conversation now. We won't have that conversation today. We'll save that for the offseason. But, yeah, I agree with you guys on the individuals. And I suppose on that Virginia note, we can get to our next thing here, and we'll go quicker through these 2 topics. Coaching carousel. The big news, of course, and we talked about it at the start of the season, was one of our biggest storylines coming in. Would Florida men's tennis head coach Brian Shelton, after a national championship winning career in both the men's and women's game, leave his position to go coach his son Ben, who obviously has ascended into the top 50 of the ATP rankings? Well, after finishing out this year, the answer to that question is yes. Coach Shelton, of course, deservedly so. And if I had the opportunity to travel with my son, coaching him around tennis in the world, and he asked me to do it, I'd sign up tomorrow. And so you completely understand that decision. Obviously, you're not going to find a bad word from anyone on Coach Shelton. The character he displayed, the passion he showed for this game, just, again, the honesty, the integrity, it's everything that's beautiful about this sport. We'll miss him. But, of course, with his absence, the coaching carousel really opens. And, look, that Florida men's job is still the biggest apple out there on the market. Now, we did have Brandon Wagner, the Texas assistant, move to Clemson as the new men's tennis head coach. It will be interesting to see if he keeps his former volunteer, Austin Rapp, on the job as the assistant. I would.
That's already done. That's a done deal.
Locked in. I love, well-deserved. You have Florida State assistant coach new Memphis head coach.
Chris Dorr.
Thank you. Chris Dorr going to Memphis. But, of course, the big one, Virginia-related, Scott Brown. He's headed back to his home school. He's headed to Vanderbilt as the next head coach. He's taken TJ Puro with him, a great hire for those that know how essential TJ was to this year's turnaround at Duke. Big assistant positions on the job. Wagner leaving Texas, obviously. Brown leaving Virginia. We also had the news that Ben Becker's leaving Michigan. He's been so essential in getting that program running full steam. Obviously, with Dorr leaving Florida State, that opens Auburn position opening up as well. I'll start with you, Chris. A lot of storylines there. What intrigues you most and why? Well, 2 cents on the Florida, and then what intrigues you most and why?
Yeah, the 2 cents on the Florida, obviously. From everything we know, we're down to 4 guys. Matt Clore, obviously, in that mix, and then 3 other guys. Looking probably, I would guess, nobody wants to move slow here within probably the next week or so. I think they will have made their decision prior to that. Within another week or so, we ought to be hearing, who that is, who the offer's gone out to. I would assume that whoever it goes out to is actually going to take it, being the job that it is. So we'll leave that one there. I think the intriguing thing to me is
hold on. I just want to say 2019 us would have said some names.
Okay, I'll give you names. You want names?
Well, right. Okay, you'll say it. Perfect. I won't get.
Fine, I'll go. All right. In no, let me put them in alphabetical.
No ranked order. Let's be clear. In no ranked order.
Yeah. Let me put it. I've already said Clore, right? He's up for the
current assistant hired last year, for those that don't know.
Okay, in alphabetical order.
Okay.
Goffey.
Josh Goffey,
Per Nilsson
South Carolina.
from Pepperdine.
Per Nilsson, Pepperdine women's tennis head coach.
Adam Steinberg, Michigan.
Yeah. Look, we're all hearing the same names, and let the record show it shouldn't have taken you that long to put them in alphabetical order.
That was. I'm like, I got first names on the brain.
You're an engineer through and through. Look, we've talked about Josh Goffey as a coach and a prospect here, and we are not saying all of these coaches are thoroughly interested. We're saying, again, it's not that they're leaving their position for sure if they get the job. We're saying these are the names most associated with people who talk about that Florida opening. And yeah, I've heard those names. I mean, look, it's Florida. Like, it's as good. Someone texted me, and I just want to float this out there, Chris. I mean, just, Chris, don't be Chris here. You know who'd be an interesting candidate for the Florida men's job is Audra Cohen. Like, someone floated that by me, and in another sport, that would be a fascinating job opening and a fascinating candidate there. But Clore's obviously an option. He knows the program. He's been there. I mean, people are saying Tanner Stump. We know Tanner. It's not happening, so we can put a quash to that rumor there. Look, everyone threw out
that would be the best hire they could make. If Tanner, but look,
Trevor Fauché would be the best hire.
Yeah, if you really wanted to know if it was a legit, if you had any doubts as to why Tanner said he was leaving coaching, he left coaching because he wanted to spend time with the family. He's got young kids at home, and he wants to be there. And that's still the case. He's not interested. Ask him again in 10 years. The answer might change when the kids are older, but that's just not the time and place for him right now. So, But that would absolutely be the best hire they could make, given the history there.
Yeah, two others who are too young or early in their career. Or one of them's not too young. Adam Schachterle should be a candidate.
Absolutely.
I also think it's too early at Michigan State, and we'll talk about this program later. Harry. He should just straight up be a candidate at this point. Jay, final word on the coaching carousel goes to you.
Well, I'm excited to find out who it is because it's probably not the last domino, right? If any of those coaches that you named, except for Clore, leave one of those programs, now we're talking about the second biggest apple left on the tree here. All really big programs and big opportunities. So this is not going to end soon, but you're right. A lot of these programs are incentivized to make these decisions quickly. They don't want to lose current players to the portal. They don't want to lose players who have committed to the program, and they got to get on the recruiting trail. It's already June 14th. Tomorrow's a big day, reaching out to rising juniors. It's all happening.
Rank these 5 assistant jobs best to worst. We'll start with you, then Jay, then you, Chris. Michigan, Texas, Virginia, Florida State, Auburn.
Virginia 1, Texas 2, Michigan 3, Auburn 4, Florida State 5.
Chris?
From what's my criteria?
What do you mean? It's always arbitrary. You have to rank them 1 to 5.
All right. Well, no, I'm not going to rank them.
You can't ask that. It's 5 years, and you're asking what's the criteria?
Well, I meant when you say rank them as in like from the view fans' perspective, what's the best? Because here's the deal.
No, from your perspective.
So, my perspective is going to be heavily biased to which one is better for Trevor. There's no hidden motives here. But no, look, here's the deal. The Florida State job is intriguing because in that job, you get more prepared to be a head coach. That assistant job is going to do more of the duties than say you do, the separation of duties are different for different coaches. Some coaches, the assistants are heavy recruiters, not necessarily the practice coordinators on court coaches. Other areas, you may get to do more of that. I think from a where you're probably going is a prestige standpoint. I'll go with Jay. Virginia's 1. I don't know. I would be torn between the Michigan-Texas separation at 2-3, but I think they are 2-3. I might lean that Michigan job first, and then I would say I would go with Jay again. Auburn 4, Florida State 5. But if you are truly looking as an assistant to get yourself ready and you think you're almost ready to be a head coach and you want to run at practicing that, Florida State's the job for that.
And I believe, by the way, didn't Virginia already announce they're hiring back? I'm blanking on the name.
They did. It's Brian Rasmussen.
Yeah, they're hiring him, which is a fantastic hire, by the way.
And they will have a third. I believe. They will have a third. I don't believe they will.
And
they will have a third.
It'll probably be Tret. who will stay in his role because
you would
assume,
but that hasn't, he hasn't said that he wants it yet and hasn't been confirmed.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead, Jay. Final word.
We should just say on that third position, that is a seismic shift that's happening in college tennis right now.
Explain it.
Is starting July 1st, college tennis can now have 3 paid positions: head coach, assistant coach, and another assistant coach. They can have that volunteer assistant actually get paid. You are now starting to see former volunteers come on as staff, as full-time employees. You're also potentially going to start seeing assistant coaches move to be third assistants at other bigger schools. I think it's also going to allow for, recent alums to take on roles and get paid some money, not just have to do it as a volunteer gig. You should start to see more diverse candidates in those sorts of roles. So I think that that's a really momentous July 1 milestone happening here.
Absolutely. And that'll be the question. Is there going to be a stigma around the third job? Will it feel lesser than? And will coaches be willing to take that plunge, knowing it is fully paid, knowing, again, it's an opportunity at a bigger school, even if it is a third, even if it is a second assistant, and delineating between the two roles, what they'll each be doing? Those are legitimate questions we all have. But absolutely, there are going to be a lot of high-tier programs who can afford to pay their third coach, who are going to be willing to do so, and some are already talking openly about hiring or having hired those people. So absolutely, the coaching carousel carries on. We'll continue to have more news on that front throughout the course of the summer. We'll also talk about the transfers. Now, Baylor picked up some, Middle Tennessee's picked up some. Colby to Georgia is interesting, but I think we can leave that there. It's been a pretty bland transfer portal summer relative to what we've seen the last 2 years. One thought each, and then it's award show time. Jay, then Chris.
Well, my weaponry knowledge is limited. However, I think we need to have an intervention with Parsa. These are not bombs. These are not grenades. We are talking water gun status here for Parsa bomb announcements.
Coaching-wise, they've been nice, but those are all the main account.
That's the main account. The bomb account is, it's really degrading the quality here. Not to, look.
No, it's fair. You keep us honest. I can't say I disagree.
On the men's side, it's been very quiet this year. There's only been one 13 UTR transfer announced since NCAAs, and that was Dusan to.
I was going to say, you better not leave out Milanovic to Mississippi State.
No, exactly. That's the one that's been announced since NCAAs. Everything else, very quiet. You can pretty much leave it like you did. So, Chris, your final thought.
Yeah, well, no, you're right. There, besides Milanovic, and then Polstrom going from Middle Tennessee to Baylor, which was really before that. I don't even know when that happened. During, before, after, it was somewhere right around that time. There haven't been a lot of huge. We get a lot more big name transfers out of the women's side than we do the men's side. I don't know the reasoning, but that just seems to be the case. You don't get those top tier. And then the other one obviously was before, right? Ronnie Holman is another, but that was not a post NCAA thing. I don't know the timing of that one either, right? But that's there just aren't that many big ones. So yeah, I think the transfer portal has been pretty weak on the overall scheme of things on the men's side this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's where things are, folks. Again, a lot of news in the post NCAA tournament glow, I suppose, and we took a little longer than expected to cover it all, but hopefully you feel up to date on everything that's unfolded. With that said, it's time for the 2023 Cracked Racquets Division I Men's College Tennis Award Show. We have 11 awards we're going to be handing out here on today's show. Now, how we're going to format things to make it a little smoother, a little easier, so that we're not all rambling through the same answers, is at the start of every category, I'm going to introduce the candidates for the awards, and I promise my list is extensive enough. I have not forgotten any of the potential candidates you, Chris, or you, Jay, have on your list. From there, we'll go Jay, Chris, myself, introduce all the awards. Actually, we'll alternate. Jay and Chris will alternate who goes first, so I'll be sure to direct who goes where. But again, 11 awards for you all quickly to go through. They are MVP, The Guy, Ideal Lineup, a.k.a. All First Team College Tennis, Best Doubles Point, Freshman of the Year, Coach of the Year, highest pro upside, most improved team and player, who's leaving the year most disappointed, program on the hot seat, and program to watch entering 2024. With that said, let's get to the award show. And the place we have to start is with our 2023 MVP. Now, whether you view MVP as most valuable point or most valuable player, I, as the generous host here of this show, like to leave that up to the minds of my two big guns, Chris Halioris and John J. Parsons. With that said, here are the list of candidates I came up for MVP. It's a pretty big ballot this year, and I think the size of this ballot speaks to the fact that there was no clear-cut definitive MVP. There was no clear-cut definitive the guy this year, and we'll unpack that as we go along. Let's talk about the MVP candidates. Here are the list of players I have for all of you. I'm not going to list all their accolades, just names and schools. Elliot Spizzirri of Texas, James Trotter, Ohio State, Chris Rodesh, Virginia, Ethan Quinn, Georgia, Andre Styler, Michigan. Now, that's your clear-cut top 5, but I do have 5 additional candidates. My honorable mention, just in case you guys are going to get mad I didn't include them. I think you have to put Johannes Monday on that list for what he contributed to Tennessee from start to finish at the top of the season. Freshman Pedro Rodinez, we'll talk about him plenty on this show. I think Seb Gorsny deserves a look, given his value. Spot in the lineup, singles and doubles, points on the board for TCU. Similarly, Joshua Lapadot. And then Toby Samuel of South Carolina is the last guy who I had as my 5 other honorable mention. But again, I think the big 5 candidates, Spizzirri, Trotter, Rodesh, Quinn, Styler. I assume one of those 5 were both of your answers. We start with you, John J. Parsons. Your 2023 MVP is
Chris Rodesh of the University of Virginia. Chris was 18-1 at the number 1 spot for the University of Virginia. He was 10-1 at the number 2 spot in doubles. He was undefeated in Orlando, 3-0 in doubles, 2 and unfinished, up a break against Elliot Spizzirri, the number 1 player in the country, and he makes the NCAA singles semifinal. I weight heavily in my award for MVP, the team portion of the NCAA competition, and he was the top player for the University of Virginia and therefore gets my most valuable player award for 2023.
Yeah, look, it's an easy argument to make, and I think if he wins the NCAA singles tournament, there's no doubt he's probably not just the MVP, he's the guy unequivocally coming out of this year, because name a big match that Chris Rodesh lost in this 2023 season. Name a moment when his Virginia team needed him to come through that he didn't in a valuable spot. If you want to say indoor quarterfinals because he didn't beat Maloney, well, Virginia doesn't care about the indoors. They needed him most in Orlando. He came through. Can't knock the pick, Jay. Chris, what you got?
I got severe regret for always agreeing with Jay so far in this show. My pick was Chris Rodesh I can just echo the same reasons. Look, 18-1 at the 1 spot in singles, 10-1 with Von der Schulenberg in doubles, and on the team that wins the championship, which I as well think if you're going to be the MVP, it needs to count for the team. I'm not going to pick, I'm not that I'm picking on Gorsny, but just for an example, the number 5 guy off of a team that didn't even make the final to me isn't the same as the top guy on a team that lost 1 match at 1 singles and 1 match at doubles on a team that won the championship. I can't get away from that. And, for all of that, and look, I was in Orlando. The eye test told me this, he's the guy that was the most valuable guy on that team that won. So that's the pick for me.
It's a fair pick. I can't knock it for either of you. Now, I did some math, and you guys mentioned the wins he put up. What was it? 21 in singles for Chris, 10 at the number 2 doubles spot. I'm sure there are some other dual match wins, 3 with Will Wood also. You sprinkle those in, so that's another 3. So he's at, 30? We'll say 37, 38 wins, 38 points on the board. The problem is there are 3 guys who got into the 40-point range, and you just if you're putting 40 wins on the board for your team, and I know I'm counting doubles as one when I say 40 points, but 40 plus wins on the board.
Yeah, Rodesh is over 40, so you're gonna have to redo your math.
Is he?
And that is such
he
a
won
relevant
6
metric.
Yeah, he won 6 matches with Barbatzer. He won another 2 with Ryan Getz.
So he's in the 40 club as well. Perfect. So there are 440 guys. And again, this gets me back to my short list to come full circle here. I think you've got Chris Rodesh, you've got Andre Styler, who's in the 40-point club. You've got Pedro Rodines, who's in the 40-point club, undefeated at the number 2 singles position, number 1 doubles with Garrett Johns, and you bring in a freshman like that, you take a Duke team from average to, oh my God, like we got to keep a look on this team now in the 2-year run they might go on. That's added value to your team. But I'm sorry, like for me, again, Rodesh has an argument. Styler, another guy, did it at the number 1 singles, lost 1 dual match all year long. By the end, he and Bickerstaff playing good doubles. They get a win over TCU at that number 3 spot. He put up over 20 doubles victories as well. I don't think I need to speak about the value of Spiz, who was the guy, front runner all year long in his run at the National Indoors again, just willing that team. And again, did we see him lose a match? The only match he lost in dual match play was against NC State. The one match his team didn't need him to win, that was fine. He didn't. I think all 5 of those guys have good arguments. All 5 of those guys have good arguments. If you want to throw in outdoors Ethan Quinn, I can't knock you for that either. I went James Trotter. Had to go Trotter because the entire Ohio State story was, all right, well, we're up 1-0. Because Trotter's not losing. And to me, that's the definition of MVP, where you are the guy for your team all year long. And that's what James Trotter was. I know he didn't finish in the national championship, but 1 loss all season long. And then he goes in, again, with Lucianic, I think at number 2 doubles, Ohio State was 19-3 all year long or something crazy like that. I have it in front of me. Sorry, 24-5. And, again, he and Lucianic put up 13 dual match victories. But, again, given the NCAA tournament he had as well, I'm going Trotter. I don't feel great about it. I think the Rodesh argument's very good, but I'm going James Trotter. 1 word each. We'll start with you, Jay. Final word, sorry.
Wrong.
Yeah, I didn't mean 1 word, but yeah, Rodesh is Rodesh was 2. I had him in for a little bit for the record, and again, just keep this in mind. I like the strength of your Chris Rodesh argument. I go next to you, Chris Halioris.
Yeah, I won't fault you for that. I think it's a matter of what your, sort of what your criteria is. I think Jay and I are on the side of, hey, if you helped your team win the title and you were higher, one of the top guys in the lineup, that it made more of a difference. Because sure, there are teams, in some years where you could go, look, the guy didn't lose a match at 6, like say Josh Goodger a couple of years ago for Florida. But yeah, I just sort of, I think to me it comes down to I'm going to place that more at the higher end of the lineup as well. But I'm not going to fault you for. I mean, Trotter, he won the doubles title and didn't lose a match in dual play and singles. That's hard to argue that. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Again, I think this was a really fun MVP year because you can make a good argument for, I would argue, 6-7 guys, and
you just did.
Yeah, exactly. The job has been done, and so that's what made this college tennis year fun. Is we didn't have a Shelton, we didn't have a Stevie, we didn't even have a Petros. A clear cut, no, that's the most valuable guy to the very best team. Now again, Chris Rodesh was the most valuable guy to the team that won the title. Notice how I snuck that in there. Chris Rodesh was that guy, and that gets us to the Guy Award. Who is the guy, the ceremonial figurehead, the face of college tennis, the guy who it all runs through, the guy you trust most with the money on the line? All these different things go into this arbitrary the guy category. That's where we move to next. I'll start with you, Chris Halioris. Who's the guy from the 2023 season?
This is one where I hate. Now I have to agree with you because I already know your take. And I agree this year. Look, the guy is not, it's not just, hey, let's look at everybody's record and see what they did. Yes, you have to have a good record, but are you the guy that your team just looks at and goes, look, he's not losing. That's our guy. Like we'll leave him out there all day. We can all do whatever we need to do. If he's the last one on court, we're fine. It's the guy that the guys on the other team all go, man, I wish we had that guy on our team. He's not the hook that out there that everybody hates. He's not, it's a guy with integrity. And that guy's Elliot Spizzirri. I mean, that's just it. He is the guy.
Jay?
Well, Chris just explained exactly what you used to use for your MVP definition. So we're conflating all sorts of awards here tonight. Literally, like, who's the point that you trust? So it's hard to keep track. For me, the guy is someone that you cannot tell the season without. And I think Elliot Spizzirri is, if you're using a figurehead definition for college tennis, fits the bill. Finals of doubles, semis for the team event, quarterfinals for individuals, just an incredible showing for him. But he is also, in a lot of ways, a slamless number one. And to me, when you look at the guy, you cannot tell the 2023 story without Ethan Quinn. Ethan Quinn won the 2 individual events he played, All-Americans and the NCAA individual championship. He reeled off a 22-1 record down the home stretch of the season, and he had a bad start to the spring season as a freshman. I would feel strongly that in 5 years, when we look back on 2023, we're telling the story of Ethan Quinn more so than these other players in this conversation.
So that's a very good argument, Jay. Chris, he brought you up, so I want to let you respond first.
Well, at the very end there, Jay led into what is going to be the most upside potential, which is another award that we've got. Okay. So now we're conflating even more. But no, I'm not gonna argue that. I will say that my criteria, obviously Ethan Quinn won the singles title. Any one of us would take him on our team. It's a different set of criteria. I'm not going to argue anything against EQ, right? He's great. But to me, I come more from like you and I, and this all stems from us sitting there, like starting in Wisconsin, watching Will Blumberg going, that's the freaking guy. I mean, he's like the whole, his team looks at him like, that's the guy.
No, Petros at 2019 indoors. You're like, that's the guy.
The other team looks at him like, that's the guy. Like, you command that respect. And I think that, it's a lot more than just there's a lot of things built up into it in the aura than just the record on the court and whether your team whether you could tell the story. So I have different criteria. Jay has his own criteria and I'm good with that because I'm not going to argue against EQ at all.
Yeah, look, this is what makes award show season so fun. That's why I love college tennis. I love this show maybe more than any other show we do all year long because you can actually have good debates. And maybe this is where I should have delineated. I brought up the point totals put up on the board for Trotter, for all these guys in the MVP discussion. MVP is most valuable point. Most, again, to your team, who's the guy that time after time putting points on the board, and that's why this team is up 1-0. And again, all this is a chase to 4. And if you start out in that chase to 4 up 1-0, you are more valuable to your team inherently than just about any other player is to any other team. When I look at the guy, maybe the most formal definition is you either have to be unequivocally the best player in college tennis, you have to be the best player on the best team. And that's why I think there are 4 serious candidates for the guy this year. Shout out Joe Monday, Toby Samuel. Had things broken differently for their teams, they could have been higher up in the guy conversation because they got to flirt with it for a little bit this year. And that means something in the college. Nuno Borges flirted with guy status for 3 years, and he's in the top 100 of the ATP rankings now. So don't sell yourself short, Joe or Toby. But there are 4 guys who this can come down to. Best players on the best team. Elliot Spizzirri and Chris Rodesh. Best players, period. Ethan Quinn, Andre Styler. I think you made the perfect argument for Quinn, so I don't need to add it. When he showed up and played his best, he won the biggest events. Once we moved outdoor, he was as good as anyone in college tennis. I think it was 18 straight wins or something crazy like that. No less than 17 to end his season. Styler, I think indoors, the question surrounding Andre Styler is like, well, how would Alcaraz handle his forehand? Because that might be a tough matchup for him indoors on hard courts. He was that good. He lost one dual match. He had 4 match points to win the NCAA singles title. On the other side, Chris made the case for Elliott. Whenever you needed him, you got him. He was good at every event, singles, doubles, all year long. But the biggest revelation of the Guy Award in 2023, and this goes back to your MVP argument. So yes, we're crossing awards here. Chris Rodesch is the guy coming out of 2023 because for 2 consecutive years, he's been at the number 1 singles position, anchoring the back-to-back national championship winning Virginia Hoos. And he was a heartbeat away from the NCAA singles final. And if he wins the NCAA singles title, this crowning of the guy is just that much cleaner cut. But I haven't seen Chris Rodesch lose a match that his team needs to win in 2 years. And that includes 7-6, 6-7 with Shelton in last year's quarterfinal, a match that will always stick in my head. And he's up 5-3 on Spizzirri in the third. Now, I know Ethan beat him. And again, Ethan's a really good argument to make. And he was the original guy I wrote down in my the guy ballot, is I had Ethan Quinn first. He's second place finisher for me. But Chris Rodesch is the guy coming out of this season. 2-time defending champ. He was NCAA singles semifinalist. The crown is his heading into next season. Jay, final word to you. I'll come to you next, Chris.
No, I mean, I'm laughing because we're all saying the same people.
Yeah,
we're just giving them the different awards. So like, there's
It's
a lot
good.
of love here for a lot of the same guys, right? And I'm sure as we get to the highest pro upside, a lot of these same names. But look, a lot of these names for different reasons deserve these awards. They deserve these recognitions. College tennis is in a very good spot given all of these guys that we've been talking about. And it's been fun to see them develop over the last year or 2 years.
I really care about award season. Final word to you, Chris.
Yeah, I'm with Jay. Like, hey, Chris, you get the blue cupcake. Ethan, you get the red one. And Elliot, you get the burnt orange one. Whatever.
Yeah.
Here, you all get cupcakes.
And don't forget about the Styler cupcake because he deserves one too.
Yeah.
Okay. They're on the ballot.
Styler's is green. Okay.
Yeah. That's good. Well, all right then. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I look, to me, I put in a lot more of, the only reason I didn't go, and I went Rodesch MVP, and I didn't want to go twice there, but part of that reason too is when I look at that team, and part of the guy thing to me is when all the players are on the court and they got to look around and go, who the hell's going to be out here for 3 hours pulling this out for us? On that team, half the time I'm looking on Inyaki's court, and not because Chris is just going to win faster.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why he's the guy, because it's like, you don't even think about it. He's just won already.
But
like,
I
maybe
get
by crowning him the guy, now people will be like, no, that is the guy. Like that, that'd be hilarious. God willing, one team member, a player somewhere. Just take a video as you approach Virginia next year, and if you take a video and as you're walking by Chris Rodesch, you go, hey, Chris, I hear you're the guy. And then you send it to us at Cracked Rackets. You'll make my life. And so just, again, please, if you don't mind. But with that said, MVP, the guy in the books. These first awards are going to take the longest because they're the ones you do the most consideration. Everything kind of falls away from there. Now we go to the all-college tennis first team here in this 2023 season. Our ideal lineups, it's going to be really hard, especially at the top of the lineup. And I think there are 7 candidates for the number 1 singles spot. Quinn, Styler, Spiz, Rodesch, Ferry, Samuel, Monday, and Murphy Cassone has to be thrown in there. I'll start with you, Jay. Give me your pick.
Ethan Quinn, Georgia.
Chris?
I took Spiz.
All right. For the record, I have the stats just for those curious. Spiz, 20-1 overall on the year. Quinn, 18-8, but he won his last 17 matches of the season and didn't lose once indoors. I went Styler because indoors, outdoors, I don't care. Like, I'll take Styler. I'll take my chances. Had the match point on Quinn. Lost once all season long. He needs to be somewhere on a ballot on this list because you cannot tell the 2023 season without talking Andre Styler. I went Styler, but again, Spiz, you got a lot of really good choices at the top spot, and we didn't get to see Spiz Styler. So I almost put Styler at 3 just because he did play it earlier this year. So I was like, yeah.
Just to let you know, in my submitted ballot, I have my 6 singles positions, my 3 doubles positions, and Westhoff will have this. I listed utility.
Yeah.
Andre Styler, because he wasn't slotted in any one given spot and he needed to be on the team, but I didn't put him in a spot. So he was my utility guy.
That's that's why I don't give you guys rules.
He was the DH.
That's what I need. That's what I like. All right. I think 2 singles is really easy. Pedro Rodines went undefeated. I think he has to be the pick. That said, other candidates, Rodines, Tien, Connor Thompson, Fumba, Kingsley, Montez, and because I love him and it's my show, Pat Maloney when healthy, John J. Parsons. Who'd you pick and why?
I went Montez, given what we saw down the home stretch. And again, if I'm rolling out a team in the NCAAs, I want him on my team.
Chris?
I got Rodines.
This position was loaded because, by the way, Segerman, Zieverts, Ianni, Henning, Hud, P.Y., Cabalbo at Utah. You could have picked any of them. I went Rodines, undefeated. He beat Montez a couple of times. That kid's the right?
He also lost to him
in the round of 16.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but they actually didn't finish. But yeah, he just lost to him in the ACC championship.
Montez beat Rodines in the ACC championship.
No, Rodines beat Montez in the ACC championship.
Yeah. And then they split. Yeah, beat him in the regular season too, and then they
Jeffrey beat Rodines in the regular season.
Oh, good for you, Jeffrey. Good win. And that brings us to the number 3 position where, again, I have 8 candidates. Another loaded position. I could have had 10. Lapadat, Strom, Tracy, Fenty, Peter Mock, Micah Braswell, Jeffrey von der Schulenberg. I went Jack Pennington-Jones as my last one, but you could have gone Hernandez, Banerjee, Bastias, Jansen, Bride in a pinch. Chris Halioris, you start first. Who'd you go with on this one?
So I'll say 2 things. I went with von der Schulenberg.
Okay.
If we had what we saw at the end of the year in a healthy Micah Braswell all year, that might have ended up being the best choice. He just wasn't there the whole year. So, but given the season we had, von der Schulenberg's my pick.
Rodines 17-0, just to clarify, at that number 2 spot. Montez 13-5 overall in the year, but you can completely understand Jay's pick, just given what he has done in the NCAA tournament these last 2 years. Jay, that said, moving on to 3. Chris stuck with the Who's. He goes von der Schulenberg. Who do you go with?
I went with that informed Micah Braswell that we saw in Orlando. He cleaned Jeffrey's clock in that NCAA semifinal, so I have to go Braswell. Again, we didn't see a lot this season, a lot of injuries, but based on form, again, if I'm rolling the balls out in Orlando, I have Braswell at 3.
It's a very good pick. I used this selection to offer an apology because earlier this year we were talking about Kentucky's prospects, and Chris and I had the conversation, as good as he has been, would you pick Joshua Lapadat over any of the big 3s for the big schools down the home stretch? And we both answered that question no. The answer after 2023 is yes. Lapadat goes 20-3 overall in the year. He's right there with Jeffrey at the end of the season. And if he is not as good as he is at 3 all year long, Kentucky doesn't win the SEC tournament. Kentucky's not a heartbeat away from beating the NCAA champions. I think you have to have him in here to tell this season's story properly. And so, look, Tracy's awesome. I love that you picked Braswell, Jay. That's a really, really good pick. I'm going Lapadat at 3 because I wanted to get some Kentucky representation. I think he belongs here. I like the teams so far, guys. I think, again, it's a lot of good candidates, a lot of good choices. This team's winning an NCAA tournament. I imagine we all agree at 4 singles. You've got guys like Getz, Jong, Mitsui, Wojtek Merrick. James Story could technically DH in this role. Carl Poling was really good in this role. Double H, CM Waldy, Body. There are a lot of guys. I'll start with you, Chris. Who'd you go with?
Well, I didn't go with any of those guys because
James Trotter, I didn't say him, right?
Yeah. How can you not put James Trotter, whatever spot you're going to put him in? And I think 4 is the spot that you got to put him at. That it's James Trotter. And he didn't lose a match. He's whatever number you're picking. He's the guy. He's the guy for that spot. I put him at 4.
Jay?
I did not go with Trotter here. I went with Getz.
Yeah.
Look, I'm trying to win an NCAA championship, so I'm going to go with the guy who's won 2, not the guy who's won none.
Well, he's won one, but team championships, let the record show, because he did win the doubles. It counts. It does. You're muted, but it counts.
Well, we're talking 4 singles.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, Trotter 27-0 on the year, 13-0 at 4. Did he and Getz formally split in that match of the national championship? Yeah, they did, right? Look, Getz was really good this year as well. He goes overall in the year 23-3, 19-2 at the 4 spot. They split, but he's my MVP. So, of course, James Trotter's my number 4 singles position. But, yeah, as good as Mitsui was, Sander Jong, another guy you have to consider. Wojtek, my younger brother fell in love with Wojtek during the round of 16, and he was, I think, undefeated, like 9-0 at 4 once he moved down there. Trotter's the pick for me at 4, but Getz was the other option. 5 candidates. In my notes, I'm laughing because shout out to me for leaving jokes for myself. I put Orlando Bernard. You have Seb Gorsny, Andrew Dale, and Angel Diaz, Cleve Harper, Miguel Perez Pena, and Alex Kiefer. Those are, I think, the 7 candidates. Now, shout out to Benito Sanchez Martinez, Jay Friend. They both had good years, but I think those are the 7 candidates. And what is a really good 5 singles position? Start with you, Chris. Who you got?
Yeah, so this is interesting. Based on the way we finished the year, here was my thinking.
Yeah.
I've already got Trotter at 4.
And I have Anthrop at 6. Am I going to put
imagine
Bernard
who
at
I
5
had
or
at
no?
6.
Oh, I had this same discussion in my head. Carry on.
How the F do I put Bernard at 5 and then go, how the F did these guys not win a national championship when they still had Kingsley and Tracy up there to play? I mean, come on. Okay, so for that reason alone, sorry, Alex Bernard, you didn't make my list. Even though you beat the living snot out of Seb Gorsny in Orlando, I went with Seb Gorsny.
That's hilarious, and I'm sorry to jump in front of you. You'll get the last word on this one, Jay. I also went with Seb Gorsny. And I know he lost that match in Orlando, and I'm not picking against Orlando Bernard. I don't care what single spot he's playing, but there's an indoor portion of the season, and Seb Gorsny was better during it. He had a really good freshman year. And I like, again, this is stubbornness because that's just who I am. I agree. I went with Gorsny. Like, I do think he had the better season at 5 from start to finish, even though Bernard had, obviously, one of the freshman endings to remember. Jay, final word goes to you.
Well, we all had similar challenges with Ohio State 4 through 6. I had the escape valve of going with Getz at 4, so I was able to choose Orlando Bernard at 5, although to both of your credits, Gorsny just beat Bernard in the 25K in Wichita, so he got some revenge.
I don't know why
there.
I'm fist pumping. Just for the sake of the list, I really like it. Alex Bernard's the nicest kid.
Was that a Maloney fist pump?
Yeah. Do you know what's funny? So we do that in my family now as a joke, and it's become like how I fist pump. And like, sorry, Pat, but I think I've told Pat that to his face. And so, yeah, that. Thanks for noticing, Chris. I'm so happy. Made it all worth it. A bit that I've been 2 months preparing for. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, Jay.
No, but you've mentioned this. The Orlando Bernard that we saw was impeccable. And look, he was one of the players that didn't struggle with the fitness element of this. So I will take him on my team.
Quick tangent, and we're doing it now. I know we'll do it in 6 months. This is when I see my cousin Brad, my younger brother Nick, and my older brother Eric wants a shout out here. He's like, why don't you ever include me? Not that he listens, but there's a group chat with my 2 brothers and my cousin Brad because we're all similar in age. Well, not really, but kind of. We excluded my brother from a tennis specific one, but he asked to be back included into the tennis specifics, and so he's tried to get in on this debate as well. But it's the debate in every talk room right now happening across the college tennis universe, and I'm sorry, but we're just going over time. It's our last show of the year. Everyone but Trotter is back next year. Chris, I'll start with you. Give me Ohio State's singles lineup. It's so fun to think about because you're like, do I play Bernard 1 or do I play him 5? Do I play Tracy 2 or do I actually play him 5?
I'm not going to give.
It's crazy.
Without giving a lineup, Anthrop's undefeated. That's all I'm saying. Like, yeah, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. I don't know how.
Cash at 6 is the only thing I'm like, yeah, that'll be it.
Yeah, I don't know what I honestly don't know what's on the incoming.
Does Boulay, who just beat Fernley, play 1 or does he play 4? Like, it's crazy.
I don't know how for another year, if Cannon comes back, I don't know how you keep him out of the 1 spot from a developmental standpoint, honestly. I mean, I think it's one of those things, kind of like we had this debate going into last year with Shelton in the fall, because we had 3 guys up there. We were like, well, where's Shelton going to play? Is he going to play 1, 2, or 3? And for these same exact reasons, I said, because of the pro upside and the fact that you need to develop him in his final year and you want him to come back, I don't know how you don't play him at 1. I think you have to play Cannon at 1 next year if you want him back. Otherwise, I think he's just better off saying, you know what, I'm just going to leave and go play pro tennis.
All right. Well,
so yeah, I say him 1. You're
go quickly through the name. I don't need the deep dive, but I do need the quick list.
I'll go Cannon 1, Boulay 2. Golly.
It's fun.
Bernard 3, Tracy 4, Anthrop 5, Cash 6.
I mean, again, we're going to do a full pod on this in January, so we'll save the full deep dive. But Jay, I'm curious your take, because I think it's fascinating.
I think it's kind of straightforward. Flip Anthrop and Tracy, and you've got it. Kingsley 1, Boulay 2, Bernard 3, Anthrop 4, Tracy 5, Cash 6.
Yeah, but indoors, wouldn't you play Bernard 5 given the Tracy Anthrop pedigree of indoor? I mean, Tracy pedigree, Anthrop weapons, and like Bernard was okay. Like he wasn't Orlando Bernard indoors.
I mean, I was focusing on like NCAA outdoor lineup here, and I'm putting the chicanery aside.
But what if it's humid as hell in Stillwater next year, and then are you like, actually, we'd like to play Bernard at 1, and we'd like to play Anthrop at 2, and you guys can play whoever you'd like against them, but we're going to beat you.
And then Virginia goes, oh, fine, we're playing Iñaki at 1. Have fun.
Yeah, we'll play Rodesh at 2. That's fine. I mean, yeah, look, it's crazy, and obviously the reason we did that tangent, and this is the thinnest position. Anthrop's the 6 for all of us. We don't even need to go through it. I had Anthrop with Strade, who was quietly 10-0 at 6 when he moved there. Trahak, really good season for Utah. Dahlberg and the TCU 6, but I imagine unanimous for all of us, Jack Anthrop, who already made a singles final since this NCAA season ended, is so good and was exceptional. You look for him overall this year for the Buckeyes, 17-2 in dual match play, 14-1 at the number 6 spot. All right, now we get to doubles. We'll just go dealer's choice. I won't list all the candidates. There's a lot of good ones. Jay, who'd you pick for 1 doubles?
I went with Fernley Famba.
Chris?
Samuel Thompson.
I also went Samuel Thompson. The Tennessee win, the comeback against Texas. It just like South Carolina couldn't win without them, Jay.
Well, I mean, they were a disappearing act in the end of the season, and South Carolina didn't win without them. So,
but no, they won Tennessee. They flipped that breaker at 1, round of 16.
Yeah, but I mean, the NCAA singles doubles was a rough end to the season.
Fair. Number 2 doubles position. This is where I think you got to have the guy. I have Rodesh van der Schulenberg. Jay, who do you have?
I go with Lucianic Trotter.
Chris?
I put him probably out of spot. I said Boulay and Cash.
So 24-5 was Ohio State at the number 2 spot all year long. That was their best doubles position. And whether it was Lucianic Trotter, Cash Boulay, Ohio State 2 was my runner-ups for this category, but Rodesh and van der Schulenberg beat them in the final, right? Or did that one? Yeah, right?
They did. They beat Lucianic and Trotter in the final.
And so that's why I had to go with them there. I had to get Chris Rodesh in my all-college tennis team. Look, by the way, that 1 spot, Harper Monday, Fenty Young were really good. Harper Spizzirri. There's a lot of good teams you could have picked from. Again, Hud Mitsui is a really good team option here at 2. Gorsny Vivez were really good. Maloney Ehrenschneider played really good ball at the end of the season. I can't knock the Ohio State pick. I go Rodesh van der Schulenberg. That gets us to the number 3 spot. Kingsley Tracy, Poling Jansen, late season Bickersteth Styler, Dostanich Colby late season, Jong Maxted, Draxel Weeks. There are some options out there. Chris, we'll start with you. Who you got?
I went John Maxted.
I did as well. Jay?
As did I.
Unanimous decision. So we'll quickly go through them all one more time. Jay, from top to bottom, list me your all college tennis 2023 first team.
Ethan Quinn, Iñaki Montes, Micah Braswell, Ryan Getz, Alex Bernard, Jack Anthrop for singles. For doubles, I have Famba Firmly of TCU. I have Lucianic Trotter of Ohio State. And I have Maxted Jong for TCU.
Chris, your all tournament team.
And that's crazy. I only matched in 3 doubles and 6 singles with Jay. So, yeah, a lot of variation here. Mine, 1 Spizzirri, 2 Rodinas, 3 von der Schulenberg, 4 Trotter, 5 Gorsny, 6 Anthrop. Doubles, Samuel Thompson at 1, Boule Cash at 2, or the Ohio State 2, if you will, and John Maxted at 3, with the utility of Andre Styler.
So here's the thing. Our teams can't really go head-to-head, Chris, because our 4 through 6 singles and 2 of our 3 doubles overlap. But my team, 4 of our 6 single spots and 2 of our 3 doubles overlap. I go Styler, Rodinas, Lapadat, Trotter, Gorsny, Anthrop in singles, Samuel Thompson, Rodesh von der Schulenberg, Jong Maxted in doubles. We'll have to go head-to-head on Twitter, see whose team people enjoy the most, because I suppose there is a little bit variation. So we'll put a Twitter poll out there. Super producer Danny Westoff, cut the clip, get that out there ASAP. With that said, all right. Now we can rock and roll through some of these award categories a little bit quicker, I promise. We move next to the best doubles point. I did not have a single Ohio State doubles pairing in my all-season team, and yet I gave this award to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, the other candidates, I think, TCU, Texas, Virginia, South Carolina. Jay, who'd you go with?
Well, I, like you, did not have a Virginia team in my doubles all-tournament team, but I went with Virginia solely based on the level of play I saw in the semis and finals.
It's not a bad pick. Chris?
Yeah, I went with South Carolina. Samuel Thompson at 1 and find 1. And I think they're, I think Lambling and and Houle at what we're like, I'm not looking at it.
Very good.
Somewhere around like 19 or 20 wins or something like that. Yeah, really, really good. And Beasley and Story weren't bad. So, that was a great doubles. That team was great in doubles.
17-5 at 1, 15-10-2. Lambling and Houle 16-4 at 3. It was most valuable to South Carolina, but Ohio State's the best doubles I saw all year long from start to finish, even if it did betray them in the NCAA final. Freshman of the year. This is a really good freshman class, and I just want to list all of these players who qualify as freshmen. Now, much like Ben Shelton and Ethan Quinn, we'll probably get into does a red shirt count, does it not count debate here in a moment. Jay and I had this discussion on the women's side, and I'm team Ben Shelton. Sorry, I love you, Ethan. I invited Ethan to stay at my house for Bloomfield Hills if need be, so let the record show that's my guy. But if you're just on campus for a year or around it for a year, I don't care if you're not playing matches. You just have a better introduction than anyone else. That said, the sort of freshman, Ethan Quinn, Jack Anthrop, Antoine Cornut-Chauvink, they were all very, very good. Now your true freshmen, Rodinas, Bernard, Bassavaretti, Michael Zhang, Ozan Barris, Seb Gorsny, Jack Pennington-Jones, Samir Banerjee, Sebastian Domingo, Carlos Ozalins, and Lerner Tien. Those are just the big names, I didn't say Sanchez Martinez or Jansen or Friend or Veltz or Dahlberg or the Kentucky freshman. It's a really good freshman class. There are a lot of really good players in this category. Jay, this was a really tough one. Who'd you go with?
Well, this is an excellent class. We were starved for a solid freshman class last year. We needed this. Look, it's clear that if you believe that Ethan Quinn is a freshman, he deserves the Freshman of the Year award. But just because I don't like to double dip, he's already my guy. I went with Pedro Rodinas, undefeated at 2, All-American, makes the round of 16. A lot of good players in this class. You can make a case for many of them.
Chris Halioris?
Well, look, if you're not going to include Quinn, I think by default, you have to go Rodinas. Look, I mean, he was amazing, but I'm in Camp Quinn. He absolutely counts. He didn't play last year. I don't care if he was redshirt or not. I would have included Anthrop in the discussion as well. The whole ACC thing's another topic. Lots of history in terms of, ATP rank, and he's older and doesn't actually have as much eligibility as a freshman, or a redshirt freshman does. He's got far less eligibility. So I don't even think that one wasn't in the discussion for me. But no, to me, EQ was in the discussion, and that I called him my freshman of the year. I will say, you mentioned being in that discussion, Benito Sanchez Martinez from Mississippi State. Actually, the freshman from Mississippi State that should be in the discussion is Petar Jovanovic.
Oh, yeah, of course, as well.
This guy, look, this kid, when you made the argument earlier, hey, we're going to look back in 5 years and talk and see where these guys are. That's the guy we're going to be watching. He just beat Lahal, the guy that won the Little Rock Challenger a couple weeks ago in Davis Cup yesterday. He was a true freshman. That's a guy to watch for, but I'm still not going to get away from Rodinas, or in my case, I went with Ethan Quinn. He is a freshman to me.
Yeah, those are your two picks. And again, God, is this class really, really good. Like, we spent no time talking about Jay Friend, who had a really good year at Arizona. And again, like, Banerjee, Bassaretti, Domingo.
Yeah. Full national champion, Bassaretti, we're not talking about at all.
If Ozalins wants, he could be the best player in college tennis next year. Like, he has those sorts of weapons. And so this is the class. Like, there are a lot of pros in this class, not just good college players. There are a lot of pros in this class. Domingo was awesome for Notre Dame. He's top 20 to end the year. Like, you can pick any of them. I go Rodinas because I don't count the red shirts. I just think it's a little bit of an advantage. But again, I love you, Ethan. You know that. You had an awesome year. This freshman class is it's so good. That said, next up, Coach of the Year. A lot of coaches did a lot of good things throughout the course of 2023. I have 5 candidates, my final 5. Now, again, like guys like Sean Mamie, Grant Chen, and Andrew Rubes of the world, Clancy Shields, they all could be on a longer list, but here are my top 5, just again in order of school. I go Ramsey Smith, Duke, Josh Goffey, South Carolina, Roland Bratno, Utah, Sergey Avdayev, I believe, UTSA, and Andreas Pedroso, UVA. That's my top 5 list. I'll start with you, Jay. Who'd you go with? Did I leave anyone off who you think must be mentioned?
Well, there's a lot of really good candidates who have done a lot of really good and historic things for their programs this year. But I mean, look, you come into Orlando, you're not even the best team, and you still find a way to win the championship. I mean, you got to go Pedroso, right? I think, again, not even the best team to win that title, but they get it done. So, yeah, I went with Pedroso. It's a little bit of a cop-out, right? If I had to go with a non-national championship coach, I would go with Utah. I think what they have done as a program this year, very impressive.
Iowa State-esque. They just didn't get the NCAA Cinderella story, just a tier lower version of it. And, yeah, Roland Bratno was excellent this season. Chris, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, I actually wrote Pedroso first, but then exactly as Jay stated it, I said, you know what? That is a cop-out. Like, they were the best team, and they had all the talent, and I was looking for more, like, who brought a team that maybe didn't have the talent. I mean, I think in hindsight, right, Virginia was the best team. They had the talent. Yes, hell, no one's going to disagree that Pedroso did a great job. But I think they had the best team. I think the guy that did the most with a team that didn't quite have all that talent was Ramsey Smith. So I go Ramsey Smith.
It's a really good pick. I think they're both good choices. I think Ramsey was the ACC Coach of the Year, Andreas the National Coach of the Year. Yeah, again, a lot of good guys. Michael Brayler, Texas Tech, just given how abrupt it was for him to get that position, deserves a shout-out as well. I had to go Andreas as well. You found the sauce. The only thing harder in life than winning one is winning two. Like, I'm not trying to equate championship runs I've made in the past, but it's the hardest thing to do. And they did it in the exact same recipe. They have found the special sauce, and that's what the Coach of the Year does. Gets your team to peak at exactly the right moment. Virginia's peaked at the exact right moment twice in the past 2 years. That's why they're the back-to-back national champions. All right. Now we get a little bit more fun. Now, again, we move into arbitrary. Not a little bit more fun. It's all fun. But now we move, I should say, into arbitrary category. And, again, we'll move to highest pro upside. Short list. A lot of guys people are thinking of, again, and then you could just tell me the candidate you went with and why. Quinn, Styler, even though he's not going pro, but hypothetically belongs on the list. Rodesh, Monday, Samuel, Spiz, Domingo, Cassone, Dostanic, Draxel, Rodinas, Fumbo, Zalin, Zhang, Gorsny. You can pick so many different guys. I'll start with you, Chris Halioris. Who'd you go with and why?
God, there's zero question here. The answer is Ethan Quinn. It's not even up for debate. That's the answer. The other guys that I would have considered at this point, some of the younger guys I'm not even considering yet, but I would have considered Joe Monday. I would have considered, although I'm just not sold yet on the pro upside, but Chris Rodesh. I'm still undecided there. I think there's more upside in Monday and I think he's still growing into that game. But Ethan Quinn's got it all. That he's got the full package. He's got the weapons. He can do it everywhere. He's got the pro game.
John J. Parsons?
Well, again, that was one of the reasons I chose Ethan Quinn as my guy, but I actually went with Andre Styler here. Being in person throughout the duration of that event, the pro weapons were incredibly clear. There's a lot of very talented freshmen that Gruskin, you walked through. A lot of love right now for Michael Zhang, given his results on the ATP Challenger Tour, but look, it's sad for us tennis fans that Styler is not going to give a go at this because he absolutely has the weapons, and he was a point away 4 different times to honestly having a conversation that looks like, wow, Styler just went on one of the best runs we've seen over the course of college tennis. And I think he could do it.
The racket speed's breathtaking. The forehand's just going to overwhelm you. When he gets a look, he takes it. I needed Ethan. Again, we all are trying to get the right people on our ballot somewhere. This is where I agree with Chris. I've never seen Ethan Quinn not be able to hit the forehand a little harder, and just the weapons, the serve, the composure to fight off match points in multiple matches, 3 sets, indoors, outdoors, didn't matter. He beats the guy in Chris Rodesh indoors. He's got the highest pro upside. I'll take Ethan Quinn in this conversation, but again, a lot of good names on that list and a lot of young names on that list. Like, again, Ozalin, Zhang, Gorsny, Rodinas. Those guys might have higher pro upside than, the group of Spizzirri or, some of the guys who are a little older who we might see Kingsley's ranked a little higher right now. That's how good these young players are. And so, yeah, again, we're in good hands in college tennis moving forward. Most improved. We'll start with most improved player. I actually thought this came down to 2 guys, but it was pretty easy to me who the pick was. I'll start with you, Jay. Who'd you go with most improved player?
I went with James Trotter of Ohio State. He was very solid for Ohio State, but not at this level. And to go undefeated, incredibly hard to do. And yeah, he was my most improved player.
Chris?
Man, I failed to read directions. I only listed a program. So
okay, top of your head?
Off the
well,
top.
Here then, let me give you my candidates because I only had 2 serious, but Miguel Perez Pena, really good in the bottom of the lineup after struggling the year before. Nevin Aramili, his story's been written about. Alex Kiefer, bench to must-have in that national championship run. Gavin Young, yeah, there was a midseason struggle, but he was another piece that made this Michigan team have the depth to be in the conversation. And 30,000-foot view, national semis and quarters in a year is pretty darn good for the Wolverines. Fernley, going from good to, no, I should be number 1 at the top of this lineup.
All right, stop.
No, because I haven't said the name yet.
Don't go on because I've already made my pick and it's none of those.
No, because those are the finalists. There's James Trotter, and then there's one more who's my pick, and I imagine it's yours as well. Say the name.
Trent Bride.
Oh, not the pick. No, the answer is Connor Thompson, South Carolina.
Oh, come on. Look, what did Bride do last year to what he turned around to this year?
But he's had that before. That's comeback player of the year. That's not most improved.
But you don't have that on the list as an award.
This is fair, and it's not a bad pick, but I just think it's got to be Thompson because, I just kept waiting for the bubble to burst and Connor Thompson not to be an elite number 2, and it was like, no, he is an elite number 2. And so, look, Trotter's my MVP. Speaks for itself. But I just didn't expect it from Connor Thompson. I thought he was that good this year, Jay. Thoughts?
Well, there's a lot
on the list, yeah.
I mean, you could even go Spazziri, given what he did last season to this season.
Well, he's got a hand again.
Yeah, exactly. That's in the Trent Bride camp. There's a lot of different players here, depending on how you want to go. I mean, Thompson was a revelation for South Carolina. They don't make the final site if they are without Connor Thompson and the improvements he made. So it's a very good pick.
Yeah. Chris, last shot at it. Who you want? You going Bride? Sticking to your guns?
I'm sticking with Bride. Yeah, if you're going most improved from last year to this year, he was a disaster last year. Yeah.
All right. Well, then we'll go to the program side of things. Utah, Georgia, Duke, Harvard, Northwestern, Louisville, and I'm going to give a shout out to my guy, Rich Bonfiglio at Penn, because the season's a month longer. They're into the NCAA tournament. Chris, who's your most improved team?
Yeah, I almost feel like I'm taking from Jay's line. It's almost a cop out. But I went Ramsey on the coach, but I'm going the same direction on the program. I went Duke just to get to where they were. From where, and it's not that they were bad last year, but it was a big jump for them. They were legitimately in the mix now this year. To me, that was the most improved. Probably could have found more improvement down lower, but I sort of weighted higher ranking a little more than just, how much improvement. If you went from 100 to 50, that might be better than, 30 to 10, but I still weight that higher level a little bit more. So for that reason, I go Duke.
Jay?
I went Duke as well. I think there are a lot of teams who have made a big jump this past season, some of which we've already mentioned. But for Duke to do that, I think if they got another team in that super regional and didn't have to go to UVA for the third time, they could have very well found themselves at the final site. Maybe had they gone to that school up north. So I think overall they made a big jump this season.
Everyone's back next year. Duke has to be the pick. They went from battling what's going on to, oh no, this program's well set to go on a little run now. And
you know who's not back next year, though? TJ Pira.
This is very true, and it will be interesting to see how the team responds. But again, to have this run, to see the national champions 3 times, to say, okay, we know what we're chasing, and everyone gets an offseason to do it, they have to be the pick. Again, college tennis is just better when Duke men's tennis is clicking on all cylinder. All right, last 3. They're arbitrary, no stats involved, no candidates. I'm just getting your takes, pure, unfiltered. Here we go. Who's leaving the year most disappointed? Chris Halioris, I'll start with you.
I actually listed 2 teams here.
Okay.
For different reasons. Okay, so the first, I'll say from a final site perspective, Ohio State. I can easily hear the arguments. What are you talking about? They made the finals, but no, the national championship was the goal. On paper, the best team. We've already talked about it. Look, we all probably wanted to put 4 through 6, their lineup as the number 4 through 6. And then you're going, but we still have Tracy and Kingsley in the top. How do you not win a national championship with that? So from that perspective, they're the most disappointed. The other team I listed, because they didn't even make the finals site, USC. Now, granted, it was a late addition for Lerner Tien, but still, that's a team that I think they themselves had a lot of expectations of being able to make a run. And once they got Lerner added, we thought, man, super dangerous, rough draw going through Michigan. But yeah, I think a little bit disappointing for them not even being able to make it to the final site.
Jay?
I went with TCU. I think to have the talent that they had this year, to be ranked number 1 the past 2 seasons, to fall again and go 0-5, I believe now in NCAA semifinals, just a really tough a tough result for them, knowing that they've been knocking on the door for so long. The undercard would be Stanford, of just the injuries that they had. Again, another team that had so much talent and just unable to get it done down the home stretch.
I had the exact same answers as you, Jay. I still can't believe TCU lost because Jong, Gorsny, and then your pick, Vivez, Jirasek, Maxted, that should have been our 4, 5, 6 picks in the all-tournament team. And I know Fumba was injured, but he played well in Orlando. And, again, for Fernley to lose that match to Boulay, for, Jack Pennington-Jones was good, but maybe not quite as good as we thought he might be coming into this freshman season. That said, they won the national indoors. The only matches they lost in the regular season were to number 1 Texas, and they beat them in the 2 tournament finals that they played. I thought this TCU team was going to win it for sure. And if I thought it, then they had that confidence going in as well. And so I just agree. Yes, the thing is, Coach Roditi, Coach Bowen, they do such a good job with that program, such a good job recruiting. TCU is going to be right back. But this group won 2 national indoor championships. And you feel like you go through that 2022 quarterfinal disappointment to Kentucky to get through that moment here in 2023. But look, it doesn't happen for every team. And obviously, this TCU program has so much to be proud of. Fomba, Jong, the seniors to win 2 national indoor titles, to make TCU number 1 back-to-back seasons. Their accomplishments speak for themselves. I agree. I think they have to be number 1 on this list. And then Stanford just for all the injuries, because you had Banerjee, Bosferetti, Ferry, and you lost in the round of 16. Chris, you look like you got something to say. Final word to you.
Yeah, I don't buy your argument, Gruskin, because, all right, here. From a fan's perspective, maybe. But look, you and I went underneath the stands, and we talked to some of the coaches. So let me ask you this. From the perspective of David Roditi and Ty Tucker, if you ask them, or not if you ask them, but just what you really think they feel, which one of those two do you think is more disappointed in the way things ended, Roditi or Tucker?
Roditi, because you didn't even get to the final.
Yeah, but I completely disagree, because I think Ty thinks they should have won, and he's disappointed.
Okay,
Roditi will just tell you, we got beat.
No, but
like they were better.
I don't know. I think they're both.
I don't think he's that disappointed. Yeah, he's disappointed they didn't win, but he also at the same time went, yeah, we just got beat.
In the moment, yes, but a month later, like, how you look back and you're like, I had Gorsny had 5. Like, how did I lose this match? That would be my argument. Jay, final word on this can go to you.
Well, Ty said the night before he didn't think they were going to win, right? He couldn't find 4 points on the board. So how disappointed can he be?
Man, come on.
Yeah, but how disappointed can you be if you don't have that belief? I think Roditi is probably more upset about this. Also,
the fact that you believe Ty cracks me up.
No, I mean, Ty's lost finals before, so he has experience doing that. And Roditi hasn't gotten to the final yet, and that's going to be a big milestone. So he'll feel like that's an opportunity that he missed out on.
I was going to say, is TCU the new UNC women, but it's just now the chase is just TCU and Ohio State. They're on the chase together. Those are the 2 programs we're watching.
The Ohio State has been UNC before UNC.
Yeah, this is, they were winning national indoor titles too before it was cool. And yeah, I agree. And with that said, I'm curious, we turn the script towards 2024 for these last 2 questions. Program on the hot seat. Jay, who you got and why?
Well, there was no way you weren't going to me first here. So I have 3 here, and this is a different tack than what I took on the women's side last week, where I kind of looked at schools that were maybe overperforming on the men's side, not on the women's side. I have some traditional powerhouses here on the men's side that I think are on the hot seat. The first is UCLA. UCLA, a traditional blue blood program that has been nowhere near the top of men's tennis since the mid-2010s. The second is Illinois. Same reason. Nowhere near where they have needed to been or expect themselves to be. They've now let Michigan become the number 2 in the Big Ten. And the third is Baylor, to go from 2022 NCAA final to outside the top 40 in the span of 2 years. That would definitely get the AD's attention. Those are my 3 schools on the hot seat.
2021 NCAA final, but
so I said.
I think you said 2. but it doesn't matter. Your point
Doesn't
holds valid. Yes. All good candidates, all good schools. I think all would be aware that they've got some, especially, again, Coach Woodson would be the first day. We got NCAAs in 2025. Like, they want to get the program ready for hosting that event. I think the UCLA argument would be the winner for me. Now, I have a different tack to take as well that I want to get to, but Chris, I'm curious your answer.
Yeah, so I somehow even missed the entire question, but that's okay because I have good answers for this one. So,
Okay.
And I don't know the criteria that we're going to consider. I listened to Jay's argument, but to me, my first and foremost is I'm going to go the route of the team that's completely disappointed me the most the last several years, which is, to me, puts them on the hot seat, and that's Stanford. They keep underachieving every single year, and so that to me puts them on the hot seat. The other one to me would be from the question of, and I don't know what we could consider the program on the hot seat as much as like coaches that get on the hot seat, if you will. But I think it's time to put up or shut up for George at Alabama. So there were lots of rumors in the last couple of years about, hey, his contract ended this year. Was he going to get renewed? Yes, he got renewed. I think it was just like a 1-year extension for that very reason. Hey, things haven't been going great. Let's see, we'll give you another year to try to turn it around. I think that program is on the hot seat of you need to turn things around now or we're going to make changes.
Well, I'm going to build off of that argument as we get to program to watch, because I think Stanford has to be on both hot seat and program to watch. They've had so much talent filter through, and they're going to have even their most talented team next year with all the guys they're bringing in on top of, if they bring back Bosfaretti, if they bring back Banerjee, should Ferry decide to come back for that final year. I think they're on the hot seat. I think you have to watch them. I have a different program to watch in my number one spot. And by the way, in terms of hot seat, it's not a hot seat in terms of the job, but like NC State has been knocking on the door for a couple years now. And next year, I know they had a lot of injuries this year, but next year with all the pieces they're coming back, if they're not top 16 comes the NCAA tournament, that's a massive disappointment. So they would be one more hot seat team because they're too talented to miss the top 16 next year. And they're going to have to make a little bit of a climb in the rankings to do so. But program to watch is where we'll end our show. I'll start with you, Chris. Who you got and why?
I mean, come on. There's no doubt where I'm going here.
Yeah.
Mississippi State. Look, this is a team that wasn't big coming in many people's lists. I pumped them coming into the year. They finished 16. They are better now than they were this year with the incoming transfer of Dusan Milanovic from Presbyterian. The old, as Jay mentioned early in the show, the only 13-plus UTR since the NCAAs. And then Tomic, another recruit coming in for the year. They dropped Lumsden and then Ramskogler at 6. And they're going to bring those two guys in. The team is already at this point better. You're going to get another year. The freshman class for them was outstanding this year. Jovanovic, Benito Sanchez-Martinez at 5, and then Novansky, who got some time at 6, ended up at 1 doubles by the end of the season. 3 freshmen that you're playing, and now you bring in 2 more big guys next year. That team's getting better. They were already top 16. I'm watching them.
Jay?
So I have 2. The first, and you mentioned that Baylor is hosting in 2025. NCAA's Oklahoma State is hosting in 2024. We saw a big push from them towards the end of this season. I have not seen them blow up the transfer portal or the signings as much as I would have expected. But look, they're going to be pushing to try and make the final site in 2024. So I expect that we will see a lot of January additions for this Oklahoma State team. And then the second is Harvard. I think Harvard is genuinely going to push into the top 10 next year. They bring back almost everyone. They bring in a very solid recruiting class with Cooper Williams and Rohan Merhali, who just beat Stefan Dostanic of USC in straight sets this week. Harvard genuinely in the top 10 conversation for me next year.
Very good picks from both of you. The only other school I'd add is Michigan State. You bring in Holman. They've got Thanos coming in, Ozon, Sheldon. Now you've got yourself a real top 4. And I'm missing some pieces as well. But that what Harry's already done in 2 years, like they're going to make the NCAA tournament next year. There are some people who are asking, might they beat Michigan next year? And I'm not ready to have that conversation yet. But what Harry's doing, we're all noticing. And yeah, again, with all the freshman classes, the programs on the rise, the fact that next year's the last year of the COVID boom, it's going to be a really fun 2024 season. And of course, we'll be back in a year to cover it all. I should say 6 months, or about 4 or 5 months, because that's when we'll start previewing 2024. But what a season it's been. Folks, that's your 2023 Division I Men's College Tennis Award Show here at Cracked Racquets. A shout out to John J. Parsons, Chris Halioris, 1 hour, 45 minutes on the dot. Look, it's our final show of the year. We wanted to give you a show. And again, a shout out, as always, to our super producer, Daniel Westoff. Everything he does behind the scenes makes these shows possible. Shout out, of course, as well to the support we've gotten from our friends at Turna, from our friends at LS as well. We're immensely grateful for it. We hope they'll be joining us once again next season. With that said, before we wrap, start with you, John Jay. Any final thoughts before we wrap this 2023 season?
No, it was an incredible season. It was fun to cover from first ball to last. So it was a great time. And I'm looking forward to, gosh, it doesn't feel like that long of an off season. I mean, kickoff is tomorrow. So, it never really sleeps. So looking forward to next season. And thank you both for all of the continued coverage.
Professor, any final thoughts?
Yeah, one, thanks. It was fun to have someone else besides you and me. Not that I get tired of your face, Gruskin. Nice to bring in Jay. You call me the post-prime Greg Maddox in the past. I'm going to call Jay our Francisco Bastias. You brought in that extra little underhand serve kick to me, which was great. I love having Jay on. But no, what I will say, I will echo your comments from the start of the show. Having been in Orlando and getting to see everybody, look, we do this because we love interacting with you guys, and everybody that came up to us at NCAAs, and we're just walking through the balcony, down in Orlando, and people are like, "Hey, Chris, Alex, we told you, come say hi to us, call us out, whatever," and we mean it. We love getting to meet everybody. First time we met Sonny Dirth. First time we met, a bunch of these folks. We love it. I truly appreciate all of you that came out and said hi to us. And thanks for watching us. Thanks for listening to us. Thanks for coming to say hi to us in Orlando. And hope we get to do it all again next year.
With that said, the perfect ending for the fantastic John J. Parsons, for the professor, Chris Halioris, our super producer, Daniel Westoff, our friends at LS and Turna, and from everyone here at both Cracked Racquets and the Tennis Channel Podcast Network, I'm your host, Alex Gruskin. Gentlemen, what do we tell our listeners?
Hey,
great
shot.
And we will see you all, honestly, pretty soon for our ITA kickoff weekend draft recaps. Thanks, everyone.